Welcome to Lyme Time. I'm Allie from the Tick Chicks. We are all more than Lyme disease and chronic illness, and together we stand with you to overcome and rise. I'll bring you closer to the experts in cutting-edge treatments and even a few unexpected ways of healing. I'll ask the questions you want answers to regarding Lyme disease and successful ways of getting you closer to 100%. We are in this together and will not be defined by Lyme. Today on Lyme Time, I have a very special guest and proud to present to you Natalie Ottosen. She's a certified transformational life coach, the Reconnection Healing Foundational Practitioner. She's UC Reiki Holy Fire 2 Reiki practitioner and an astrologist. And she's here today in her wonderful, brilliant capacity of life coaching. She'll tell us more about this when we talk to her, but she basically went through a lot of self-doubt, suffering, and insecurities in her past. And she had issues such as single parenting, divorce, and things of that nature. And she came to a fork in the road where she was really questioning, I guess, a lot about what life was throwing at her. And so she has found a way to turn that around and really use her brain and her heart for good. And she's completely transformed her life. She is now a practitioner and a life coach, and is making quite a splash on social media and has a ton of followers there. And she's passionately leading women and men to reconnect to their soul's purpose. And we're here to welcome her and to talk about, exactly how to navigate chronic conditions such as Lyme disease. So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Well, I'm excited too. I'm a big follower of yours on social media, and I find your message is so inspirational and motivating. And, I think about people in the Lyme disease community and how they are every day is a struggle. And I always tell people it's not going to be that way forever. And I try to offer some hope along the way. But people like you, I'm always proud to introduce them to, just for that little extra benefit of them waking up and maybe tuning into you every day and seeing what you have to say as well. So I want to start out by talking about your own personal journey. Can you tell us about that and the world of personal transformation, how you got to it, and how that turned into eventually the life coaching?
Yeah. So it's crazy. I would say I've been on this journey for, let's see, I'm 41. So 41 years, basically, right? But really started the journey about 17 years ago. And then I actually became certified as a life coach back in 2016. But about 17 years ago, I struggled, like you said, I struggled with a lot. I was part of an organized religion, ended up leaving that organized religion, and had to do a lot of therapy, which cognitive behavioral therapy, which ended up, my therapist at the time actually introduced me to meditation. And meditation was kind of one of those tools that transformed my life. I say it saved my life, because it started helping me recognize, as somebody who struggled with, worthiness and, feeling like I fit in and, seeking, advice and information outside of myself and, not sure about my purpose and my path and where I wanted to go, and feeling disconnected from myself, most importantly, and others. And then just feeling stuck and like I didn't know what to do and where to go and how to move forward in my life. It really started that journey for me of being able to be aware of my mind and what my mind was saying, what my brain was telling me all the time. And because we have somewhere around like 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% of them are negative, and that's just the way the brain works. And so if we can start like paying attention to what the brain is doing, which is what I started to do, then I started to recognize like, whoa, like I've got these thoughts that are really like really negative and really not serving me. And how do I start transitioning this and changing this and helping myself move forward in a healthy way? And obviously my journey, my struggle hasn't ended there. I continue to have struggle all the time, but like being able to learn some of these tools that I've learned over the last 17 years and then getting, certified as a life coach and an energy healer and understanding that like my thoughts create my reality. And like we are constantly vibrating at frequency all the time and we can heal the body, right? Like there is a process of being able to heal ourselves and being able to move forward in a way that is beneficial. Um so yeah, that's kind of how I got started and that's kind of how I got going.
Okay. Then, I think a lot of people can relate to what you just said. I mean, we sort of go about our way, and whether it's religion or the relationship with our parents or trauma that we suffered along the way, there just comes a point where we have to reevaluate our thoughts. And there's only so much our bodies can take and our brains. So if we're constantly doing the negative um, dialogue in our head, it really, those thoughts create disease. And really understanding the mind body connection is so huge for me. Personally, a lot of times people will say to me, tell me, the top 3 things that you did to help overcome Lyme, or the top 5. And it's really hard to articulate the power of the mind. So in other words, you could be doing so many things right, but if you keep telling yourself, I have this condition. This condition isn't getting better. It's just ruling my life. It's ruining my life. And on so many levels, like I could say, yeah, that's true. But I chose to do the opposite, which is to put my mind over matter and to think in terms that didn't feel necessarily right in the moment, but to say, yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling and I would just kind of talk my way through my day. And some people have a harder time with getting there. And some people probably maybe never get there with their thoughts. So I'm super happy that you're here to talk about it. And now I know that you talked about health conditions along the way in your bio. Did that play a part in also how your thoughts controlled that condition?
Yeah, so it's so interesting that you talk about, and I even take it one step further. So it's the body, mind, soul connection. But it's so interesting because the body here or the body hears everything that the mind is saying. And there's books out there like Feelings Buried Alive Never Die, The Body Keeps Score, stuff like that. I mean, back in the day, I was diagnosed with asthma. I had all sorts of breathing and health conditions. And about 5 years ago, 15 years ago, I put breast implants in, ended up having those breast implants taken out because I got breast implant illness. So I'm 5 years post having, my explant, and I have literally healed and transformed my body that way. But the body, like you said, the body keeps score. The body hears what we're saying. And so, we end up taking, somebody who has, any sort of diagnosis, me as a coach, I ended up putting that as a circumstance in the life. Like that's a neutral event. And what are you making that mean now? Right. And then how is that making you feel ultimately? And then what actions are you doing or not doing based on that, which is ultimately giving you a result. So like I really look at that with my clients, and it's not to take away like whatever your diagnosis that you have, but what are you making that mean about you now? Like you said, like some people, they want to stay in that. But how is that serving you? And how is that working out for you? Right. So as a life coach, I do really dive into that and talk to my clients about that. And and for me, like over the years of, having illness, chronic illness and things like that, I found that the way that I talk to myself, the way that um, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions that I had in my body, they were manifesting physically, right? Like they were literally manifesting physically. And I was creating disease and dis-ease, I was creating that in my own body. And as I've been able to shift and transition and transform that in my mind, my body has changed as well.
Yeah, I
It's
think
really
that's
powerful.
when it's so powerful, and that's when it really changed for me. I'm most always careful to tell people I'm not saying anybody's bringing this on into your life. I'm I'm a spiritual person, but I kind of draw the line there because nobody really invited that tick in to
Right.
bite them.
Right.
And I just want to be clear about that. And I want to be clear that, positive thinking um, is may not cure you or be the end thing and be so easy. However, it's so important that you change your mindset on a daily basis into the positive thoughts, because that is like the missing link for so many people to just continue through this, having faith, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that it's true, knowing that your blood is healthy and whole in your body and working for you. I do believe that our bodies ultimately work for us, not against us. And I love the idea of a life coach because, so many people don't have the family support or understanding about Lyme disease. It's a kind of an invisible disease. It's hard to treat. It is systemic, so it moves around to different bones and joints and muscles and tissues at any given time. So it's a complicated issue. I want to talk a little bit about the pitfalls of overthinking. So with Lyme disease, you're constantly trying to find the right doctor. You're always worried about what your labs are saying. You're charting each day just to try to see if you're making any headway. And yes, all of that is so important. But let's just, if you wouldn't mind, talk about the negative things about overthinking your situation.
Yeah. So we can definitely get into um, thoughts, right? Like, and those create feelings in our body that we get stuck in, right? And they don't really serve us. But one of the things I do like to do with my clients when we are having like obviously if you have lab work or something like that coming up, so important to be able to take that information and kind of I have my clients do this on a regular basis, and it's part of self-coaching, is doing a brain dump, right? Doing a thought download. What does all of this mean for you? Right? And getting it all out of the brain and down on a piece of paper. And that is something that like your listeners can do. Like do this when you have something that you are ruminating on, something that is occupying your brain, occupying your mind, get a piece of paper, write everything down. Because what happens is that when you take it from the brain and put it down on a piece of paper, you're then like releasing the brain to stop thinking about it constantly. And when we constantly continue to think about something all the time, we're taking up all of that energy. And I'm going to tell you, when you're dealing with autoimmune, you need that energy. And taking that energy to focus on things that are really out of your control, or maybe, um, like if you're dealing with overwhelm, or if you're dealing with I don't know, like if you get lab work back and it's like, oh, this is fear or whatever it is, when you spend all that time and that energy ruminating on those thoughts or ruminating on those feelings about being unsure, or what do I do, or and those types of things. And that's the other thing, when you have a situation where you're like, I don't know what to do, what are my next steps, that's where I always bring it back to you and say, okay, if you did know, what would that look like? And that is so beautiful. And it puts you into like moving forward and taking steps to create, the result that you need to do. So instead of saying, oh, I just don't know what to do, I don't know what my next steps are, bring it back to yourself and say, if I did know, what decision would I make? What take? How can I move myself forward? So being able to kind of do that thought dump, that brain, that thought download, and then asking yourself the question of like, what do I do? What are my next steps? Because the brain's going to go work to find the answer for you.
I think that's great. That's a great way to segue into my next question, which is about intuition. And I try to tell people that, you are the medicine at the end of the day. So you have the doctors that you go see, the specialists, and all of that. And all they can do is tell you from their own experience with their own patients, if they've had any with Lyme disease. And and most of the listeners here and most of my followers have been through the ringer. They've done everything from antibiotics to herbs to, physical therapy to IVs and treatments that are expensive, and they've done it all. And yet they're still sort of left with the after effects of Lyme disease. And those can be just as disastrous as the Lyme disease itself. So in a way, there comes a point where people have to stop and reevaluate. They're exhausted. They have doctor fatigue. And this is a great point to be at, because I always say, okay, so now that you've really done every lab and every test, now you can go inward and try to find that intuitive space within yourself that will also help lead you to whatever your own personal direction or answers are. So will you tell us a little bit more about how intuition plays a part in healing health conditions?
Yeah. So in number one, my opinion is intuition is a superpower. So I believe that everybody has that, and it's something that can be developed. And meditation was really one of my tools that helped me develop that for myself. So much so that when I went into a meditative state, it was like my higher self was like, yes, she's quiet, download, right? And so I actually would have a journal next to me and I would write down all the things, right? And then I would act on those things. And I do want to talk about like, as far as intuition and how the meditation piece helped as well. But meditation is also a tool to help regulate the nervous system. So when you're dealing with autoimmune, you're dealing with an overactive, nervous system as well. And so being able to bring that meditation piece in is a great tool to help regulate that nervous system. So like I said, intuition is a superpower. And I think that it's so important because my husband was actually diagnosed with autoimmune 5 years ago. Well, actually, it wasn't 5 years ago. It was probably about 3 years ago. But the autoimmune journey for us started about 5 years ago. And it's so fascinating because we went to doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor. And we're told that he was basically just crazy, which was so frustrating. He knew going on, like intuitively.
Hold on one second. Hold that thought. Will you bring the microphone maybe a little closer? I don't know. It's just kind of going in and out a little bit.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good. That's better.
Okay.
So just pick it up again when you talk about your husband.
Okay. So my husband was diagnosed with autoimmune about 5 years ago, actually like 3 years ago. But as we were trying to figure out what was going on with him, we went to doctor after doctor after doctor, and we were told he was crazy. But we knew that something was not right, something was off. And as well intended as the physicians are, and the medical industry is, they also are behind on autoimmune and being able to diagnose some of these things. And so you really have to be your own advocate. And this goes for anything medically related or anything in general. You have to be your own advocate. And that's kind of what we ended up doing for him. And that's where that intuition piece comes in, where you have to really feel it for yourself. You have to really discern that for yourself and say, what's going on? I look at it as like sinking in or like settling in to myself. And I do that a lot through meditation, but I've gotten so good at it now that as soon as something hits me, like I know immediately, like I know when, like, I know, right? I know what's going on, but it's been practice. It's been me listening and trusting and listening and trusting and listening and trusting and acting, because it's the action piece too. So many times it's acting on that guidance that comes to you. And I would just say, if you think that something's going on with you, if you think that something's off, if you're like, there's got to be another answer, I think it's so important to trust and honor and listen to yourself through that process and to move yourself forward that way.
Perfect. Yeah. I love that. I love the connection between thoughts, meditation, and journaling, because just getting it out on paper, it not only clarifies the situation for you and helps you, kind of make a little action list, but it's also getting it out of that overactive nervous system and vagus nerve dysregulation. And it's just allowing you to take a little bit of a bird's eye view, and it can become less part of your immediate problem.
Well, and it's so interesting because, like, with my husband, what we ended up doing for him, so we had to go in and regulate, like, we really had to, because stress is a huge, it obviously causes a lot of cortisol and inflammation in the body. And so we had to go in and reduce stress everywhere that we possibly could, in diet, in media, and one of the things that we ended up doing for him, he was so resistant to this, but he finally ended up coming around. I think everyone's resistant to meditation, but we ended up doing meditation where we brought in binaural sounds, where you're working with both sides of the brain.
Oh, interesting.
And it helps calm it's another tool that you can use to help calm the nervous system. And he listened to that every night he did it for the last several years. Funny enough, he's kind of had a little bit of a flare up and he hasn't been doing it. So we probably need to have him go back in and start listening again. But it's just something like you put headphones in and it helps balance the brain. It's
and so you just type that in. It's an app or something that
I can actually send you the link for it. It's called the EOC Institute. It's amazing. My bioenergetic therapist, who I ended up getting certified through, she actually introduced it to me, and I've introduced it to so many of my clients in coaching and in energy healing, because again, you're going in and balancing the brain. It can help with anxiety, it can help with fear, it can help with stress, it can help with, there's so many things it can help with. So it's one of those items that you should have in the toolbox.
Oh, and it sounds so easy to do. And many things that I talk about too are right there in the comfort of your home, and they're not expensive. And I was one of the lucky ones. I did not have to do any of the big treatments, because I went within pretty soon after I got the Lyme diagnosis. Took me a long time to get there, but then once I did, I just went within and tried to just do exactly what you're saying: relieve myself of stress, find the small things in life that I could do one at a time, and not bombard my body with all kinds of stimulation. Which is you want to, of course, try every treatment in the book right away, because you just want it cured and done and over with. But it's a bit more of a like a marathon, I would say, than a short race. Well, let's talk about, you talk a lot about your own soul's purpose and the ability to find each person or client's soul purpose. And I know when we're dealing with health issues, it can be very difficult to even find the joyful part of our lives. And because we're immersed in this physical pain and confusion. So what would you tell our listeners about, learning about their soul's purpose, and how would you help others achieve this awareness in the midst of a life overhaul moment?
Yeah, I think so one of the things that I ended up creating a long time, I started kind of this morning routine, right? Because as I've gone through the things that I've gone through in my life, illness, again, all of the trauma, everything, all of that, I ended up creating kind of a morning routine um, because I found that I needed to be able to, again, it kind of goes back to shifting that mindset because where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? And if you're focusing on not feeling well, and again, this isn't toxic positivity. This is like the brain really does go to work to what we're focusing on. And so for me back in the day, it was a lot of negativity, it was a lot of self-loathing, it was a lot of unworthiness, it was a lot of like chronic not feeling well all the time. And so again, bringing in that meditation piece for me was huge. And then I also started bringing it. Do you remember back in the day when we used to blog?
Oh, oh
Had a
yeah.
blog. I had a blog back in the day. And at one point in time, I was so negative. I saw something in an article and it was like, write down something that you're grateful for every day. And so I actually ended up challenging myself to write down 10 things I was grateful for every day. And initially, when I started that process, it was really difficult for me. I had a hard time finding anything to be grateful for. I was dealing with a lot. I was dealing with a sick baby. I was dealing with, you know, all sorts of things, all sorts of things. And so I started doing this gratitude. I started challenging myself to do this gratitude where I was focusing on 10 things that I was grateful for every day and I was posting it so everyone could see it. And what I ended up noticing through this process is that it started shifting me in ways that I had no idea was going to happen. I went from not being able to find anything to be grateful for to finding to recognizing, noticing and recognizing what I was going to put on my list for the next day. So that ended up being something that I ended up incorporating in my life every day. So I meditate in the morning. I end up doing gratitude every day, 3 things that I'm not 10 anymore. I do 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. I do a positive affirmation. So, and this is whatever it is that I want to encompass, anything that I want to embody. And I think, again, this is something that I think could be so important for your listeners because as you start shifting your mind this way, you can start creating, you can see shifts in ways that are immeasurable, especially when you're dealing with chronic pain or chronic issues. When you start to focus on some of those things that you can be grateful for, like today, I was able to do this, or, I was able to spend the day with my kids. I was able to get out of bed, right? Some of those things are so important to be able to focus on every day because when you can find those little wins, you have another reason, right?
Mm.
And that is what helps ending up getting you to a place of health and wellness overall. So I bring in I have this gratitude, I bring in this affirmation, these affirmations that I do every day, and I bring in the positivity. It's the reason why I started Soul Sister Coaching. It's the reason why I started this Instagram page, because at the end of the day, there is so much negativity out there. I wanted there to be a space where if if all you got was 10 seconds of positivity today, like that was my page, right? I wanted you to be able to have that because there's just so much negativity. And again, this isn't about toxic positivity. This is about like what we feed our minds with ends up being what's in our mind and how we think and how we feel and how we become who we are. And so I think part of it is, and then you talked about the purpose thing. So understanding your purpose and what you're here to do, I I I think it's really important to understand what you value most in your life. And when you can go in and define what you value most in your life, you can start moving in that direction. And I would say for most of your listeners, it's going to probably have something to do with chronic illness or autoimmune or, learning how to overcome these things, right? Because bad things never stop, right? They're never going to end. They're always going to be there. But it's also, what do we do with those, right? Like when we have that, what do we end up doing and how do we help other people? Because I truly believe that that's what it's all about. What I've been through is so that I can help other people with what they're going through. And as long as I'm willing to be so courageous to stand up and share my own story, then I can help somebody, hopefully help somebody through that, even if it's just one person.
That's so wonderful. I mean, waking up and celebrating the baby steps. And, I think it's one thing that I started my own, awareness, social media. And you know what? It helps me. It keeps me going. And it's been such a positive in my life. And um, I'm just constantly amazed at how many people every single day are just starting their journey. And it gives me a lot of just mental freedom knowing that I am helping others throughout my own journey. So I can say, from somebody who has done that and put it into action, it's key in our own health. I was laughing at what you were saying about, every day, just sort of, something that I do, which is kind of funny. And I didn't realize I did this until I was listening to you, but I would pretend like I had, this cooking blog or something. And and so every day when I'm making myself something healthy, I kind of think in the back of my mind, oh, this would be a great recipe to share with everybody. And so I sort of pretend like I'm doing this, on camera or something, and preparing this lovely meal that I can show everybody after. Because if I don't do that, I'll go in and reach in for the completely unhealthy stuff, But if I try to keep myself accountable in that way and pretend like I'm some superstar chef, then it actually helps keep me on track. And I think it's all of those little things where we can, sort of create our own little mini realities and visualize how we want our life to look and how we really want these outcomes to be, and you start putting them into action before you even believe it to be true yourself. And pretty soon, it's just a new habit that you're forming. So I just I'm going to encourage everyone to follow you at Soul Sister Coaching, and look at your website as well and see all the wonderful things that you offer for everyone. But if you wouldn't mind just taking a minute telling everybody where to find you and what kinds of things that you offer, just right here.
Yeah. So obviously Soul Sister Coaching on Instagram, that's really where I'm at. And then obviously soulsistercoaching.com is my website. I do offer, distant healing sessions. And I would say my biggest thing is I offer coaching. I am a life coach and I am all about helping you become your own hero. I did an exercise recently where we were asked to name our 3 heroes and their 3 attributes, and I named myself, and I was like, he probably doesn't want that, so I'll try to name some other people. But he said in the 20 years of doing this, he'd never had anybody name themselves as their own hero, and I thought that's a travesty. We, especially as women, should be able to, if somebody asks us who our hero is, we absolutely should be able to say, me, I am my own hero. These are my heroes too, but I'm my own hero. And honestly, again, with your audience, with you brave, powerful women and men who are overcoming Lyme disease, like, you are your own hero, and you have to think about yourself that way in order to help you move forward, because like, you just have to. So
we're all we've got, right?
exactly. So so I offer coaching sessions. I offer distant healing sessions. I love to incorporate astrology in my if people are open to that. Not everyone's open to that, but if people are open to that, I love to be able to look at charts and say, this is you, this is your blueprint. Like, there was no mistake about you. So let's help you take this high road, right? And then and I do even offer, so like I said, I created this morning routine where I kind of go through the process of meditation, gratitude, affirmations, positive reading. And then I have meditations that I created with that. So that's on there as well. But yeah, it's really about helping people become, women specifically, becoming their own hero.
And do you offer classes as well?
I do. I am going to be offering more of that soon. I kind of did a revamp and a relaunch. And so I'm in the works of creating webinars and workshops and hopefully a retreat and
Oh
all of
yeah.
those things down the road. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm happy to have you at the Losing Lyme retreat this year, and
I'm
hopefully in years
excited.
to come. So anyway, everybody can meet her there in person as well. So thank you so much, Natalie. Are there any final words that you'd like to tell our listeners?
Just you're there you're all amazing and wonderful and beautiful, and your bodies are miraculous, and they it hears everything you're saying. Your body hears everything your brain is saying. So feed it the good stuff.
Good note to end on. Ending on a positive, everybody. Thank you so much, Natalie, for coming, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here.